Good morning. This is me, your boy lipa. Welcome back. Minecraft Ancient City. I hear the words and I'm in love. Ever since its first reveal at Minecraft Live, these things have been mysteriously fascinating. Not only mysteriously fascinating, but also mysteriously gigantic. Easily one of the biggest structures in the entire game. These things are complex. If you're anything like me, you want more. Kind of obsessed with these cities. Today, you're in luck. I've taken the time to break down the structure piece by piece. We're going to look at every single piece of the ancient city as of the latest snapshot. This one will help you understand the ancient city, maybe even help you navigate this thing once it drops in survival. Or, it'll just be interesting. Drop a like and I'll make more ancient city videos. Subscribe if you're new. Wild update content all the time. And let's take a look at the city. So the ancient city, when you find it inside of your world, it'll be like one structure, kind of, except it's not really. If you're newer to structure generation, it's pretty simple. You can think of a structure as a puzzle, and then all of these individual things as puzzle pieces. Inside of the bounding box, which is basically like the outlines, is one individual piece of this puzzle. We take one piece, we pair it with another piece, and another piece, and another, and then eventually we end up with gigantic ancient city. Ancient cities are made up of different structures. These structures, individually, are organized into separate categories. We have the entrance category with 6 variants: ancient city walls, ancient city structures, which are basically like the buildings with the loot, ancient city center walls, and then finally ancient city centerpieces. There are certain rules here inside of these cities, like basically 1 centerpiece per city, but long story short, that means 58 total structures. However, in the wall category, we have 6 ruined versions, so if you want to talk like unique things, minus 6 from 58, that's 52 unique structures. Insane. That's got to be like the most out of every structure in the game. Kind of interesting here, I laid everything out in the world and then kind of organized it by like section. We have entrances, we have walls and stuff. This is what it looks like from above, plus a small city, ignore that. Kind of cool, I don't know. 58 structures. Sheesh. To make sure this video isn't like literally 3 hours long, we're gonna have to go through some of these structures a little bit quicker. Boring structure, fast. A cool structure, less fast. First, let's take a look at the entrances. The perfect way to literally enter the video. I never said that. So entrance number 1 is looking pretty good. As you can see here, this entrance bit is going to be the part that kind of leads up to the ancient city if you're familiar with it. Entrance number 2 introduces dark oak wood. We're going to see a lot of dark oak wood today. Now entrance number 2 is kind of destroyed, especially if you take a look at the center thing. Absolutely obliterated. Entrance number 3, even more dark oak wood. Bridges are looking a little bit better sometimes. And then this thing, it's like a miniature outpost. Look at this thing. It's so cool. Now, compared to the other cool things we're going to take a look at today, this is very mild. But if it was a vibe check or something, it would pass. That's sweet. Sad music. This is so sad. Small outpost looking structure. We barely knew you. How could this happen? And entrance number 4, destroyed, gone, erased. And then the rest of the structure here, we have our first appearance of light blue wool or carpet. Pretty cool. Absolutely destroyed. These tower things, completely ruined. Sad music, bring it back. Small outpost structure from number 4. You're gone. Completely gone. We didn't even know your first name. It's so sad. As for the rest of entrance number 5, completely destroyed as well. Now, taking a look at the back of the entrances, you might realize that they're completely chopped. What's going on there? So, what I think is happening is when you have the ancient city generate, you pick one of these entrances, so let's say this one, and then every time you pair it with this connector piece right here. Basically, this thing finishes the entrance. Now, compared to some of the other entrances that we were taking a look at, this one, when it comes to the condition, it is pretty good. It's doing pretty well. We have a little bridge at the end that would walk us up to the centerpiece. We'll take a look at that later. But yeah, those are the entrances. Next chunk of structures, ancient city walls. If you're familiar with the ancient city at all, then you know the walls are a pretty prominent feature. So when an ancient city generates, you get a random combination of all these structures. No 2 structures are alike, you know. Basically, inside of the ancient city, you have these walls winding throughout the thing. It makes it look like a castle, and then when these walls connect to each other, you basically get these long hallways. The first walls that we're going to take a look at have an intact version, so that's going to be this back one right here, and then a ruined version. This thing, yeah, clearly completely ruined. Moving on, the next ruin has a little bit of dark oak here, and then the intact version, the original, is this right here, pretty similar to the first one. Next up, this ruin has a little bit more dark oak wood, except no logs this time, and then same thing, this original version of the wall, pretty similar to the first one. Finally, oh my gosh, what happened here? This wall is completely destroyed this time. You would have no clue looking at this thing that originally was this amazing one. You have the staircases walking up right there, even more staircases right there. This one is sweet. Out of the first four ones, easily my favorite. Not going to talk about lore and theories today. It's a topic for a different video, and we already have enough to talk about today. But this next one is called Ruined Corner Wall 1. Now, if you take a look at the structure right here, you may say, like, what's ruined about it? It looks like relatively fine. I mean, there are some holes, but no big deal, right? Well, my theory here is that maybe this original structure was all deep slate, and then it got ruined, but then somebody or something came back in and repaired this structure with a little bit of dark oak wood here, maybe, and then, like, the light blue wool and everything kind of stands out after all. That would explain that one. That would explain some of those other ruins, and that would kind of explain this ruin, except they didn't do a very good job. Maybe they're blind. Here is another version of the corner wall. This one is looking pretty good. It's all deep slate this time, some ladders in the middle, and soul lanterns, common theme throughout the city. Here's another wall. This is just a pretty plain basic wall piece, and another plain basic wall piece. We'll come back to that crazy one. Here's the corner piece for the walls. Here's a three-way corner piece for the walls. Here's a cool wall with a walkthrough right there. That's pretty nice, good, spacious. And then finally, the cream of the crop over here. This thing is a beauty. Look at this thing. Up top, first off, you have the statue right there. What is this thing? Well, kind of looks like a warden to me. I mean, I don't know. You have the gigantic centerpiece right there. Kind of looks like a warden. You have smaller pieces of this puzzle that kind of look like a warden. And then you have this right here. Then it's a dripped out warden too, if I say so myself. Look at this thing. The warden with the soul lantern earring. Yikes. Yikes, but in a good way. This piece is so cool. Easily my favorite wall piece out of all of them. On the ground in survival mode here, looking at this thing, it's like tall and open. Easily, Warden could chase me through this thing. Really, really cool. And then just like the grandness of this one with the whole statue on top. Chef's kiss. Good job. So I said some structures are a little bit more interesting, a little bit less interesting. In my opinion, I mean those ones are all interesting in their own right? But these next ones that we're going to take a look at are the most interesting ones of all. Entrances and walls, we've cleared them. They're both out of the way. Fascinating, bodacious, scrumptious, beautiful, ancient city structures. I would describe these things as all of those, or at least most of these. If you're looking for loot inside of the ancient city, this is where it's at. All of the structures that we've looked at so far have no loot chests inside of them. This first one is called the barracks. The barracks is pretty popular. We got to look at this one on Minecraft Live. This is a structure with 2 loot chests inside of it. Every single time you find one of these structures, loot will be randomly generated. So whatever I show you could be completely different. But consistently, you will always have the skeleton skull on the back of this one right here. That's good loot. That's really, really good loot. The only place you can find this thing in survival Minecraft too. Back up on top of this thing, we have miniature statue of Warden or Shrek, I'm not too sure. And then we have jigsaw blocks. In survival, you won't see these jigsaw blocks. Instead, you're going to see Skulk. So Skulk is going to generate all over these cities, on the walls, on those things, you know, like literally all over the place. But where you have a jigsaw block, you will always have a blotch of Skulk generating. This blotch of Skulk could have shriekers, it could have catalysts, it could have sensors, it could have all of them. Let's move on to camp number 1. Camp number 1, very interesting. We're going to start to see a lot of blue-toned wool inside of here, except it's kind of in a pile. If we're talking about a camp, no clue. It doesn't even really look like one. We move on to camp number 2. We start to get a clue. Here we have a little bit more like structure to the blue wool inside of this thing. We have a deep slate table on the inside, a campfire that is burning, and then dark oak logs all over the place. The same ruined thing kind of outlining the structure. Finally, camp number 3. It happened again. It's completely ruined. Now currently I have 2 known definitions of the word camp. We have insanely tacky, like over the top, not good. Or we have, like, to put it simply, it's like somewhere with a tent. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. I don't know. Just kind of interesting. Moving on, this thing is called the chamber. The chamber has one of my favorite parts of the entire ancient city. It's this outline right here. I feel like the outline is so ominous and creepy. Now, the outline, I mean, you tell me, but right there, that outline, I mean, I kind of feel like it's another warden. Absolutely amazing. When I was doing some survival playtesting, this one was a little bit tricky to get into because if we take a look at the, like the outside of the structure, no clear doorways or anything like that. That's going to mean you're going to have to kind of parkour into the structure, and if you have shriekers sitting around like on top of this thing like I did, that's potentially bad. Inside of the structure, you have a little bit of a table right there with some loot on the table and not much else. If chamber number 1 and chamber number 2 and chamber number 3 were all of my children's, then chamber number 1 would easily be my favorite child. Chamber number 2, it's not that interesting. There is a loot chest right there. Chamber number 3 is pretty similar to chamber number 2, but really, compared to chamber 1, it's just nowhere near as good. Let's move on. Icebox number 1, except it's the only icebox. The icebox might be the most complex individual structure in this entire city other than the centerpiece. When we walk up this thing, this is the one with the pressure plates and the note blocks. You might have seen it. Then we have a pressure plate right there to go down into the trap door. Then in the bottom, we have ice all over the place, hence the name icebox. Ancient fridge, loot chest in the middle. The icebox is ancient fridge. Generation-wise, pretty complex. Loot table-wise, it has a unique one. So the entire ancient city, it has 2 loot tables. One loot table is going to have all of the loot like that you'll find throughout the city, and then the other loot table is specifically for the icebox. The icebox loot table contains like a lot of food, a little bit of cold things like snowballs and ice. Individually, it's just a really cool structure. Love the note block trap right there. I think it's really cool. Moving on, we have a string of relatively small, boring-ish structures. Large pillar number 1, no loot inside of this thing, it's just a pillar. Medium pillar number 1, no loot again, it's just a pillar, except this time it's a little smaller and kind of ruined. Large ruin number 1, boring, snooze. Medium ruin number 1, boring, snooze. Medium ruin number 2, boring, snooze.
I mean, I'm sorry, they're not the most fascinating things, but I said every structure, so...
Please wake up. This was a good one. So when it comes to good structures inside of this one, or my favorite structures, really like the icebox, like that wall piece right there. Sauna is definitely in my top 5 as well. The sauna is the individual structure with the most loot chests in the entire city. It's also one of the biggest structures. So starting off over here, we have warden hot tub right there with the candles around. It's got to be really, really warm. Over here, we have warden cold tub, pool. I don't know. Yeah, we'll go with the warden pool right there. Then over here, we have a loot chest inside of this room or building. Another loot chest over here in this room or building. And then finally, another loot chest in the small room right over here. I mean, with all of this city, I get tempted to, like, find the city in survival and completely restore it. But individually, this is one of the buildings that makes me want to do this the most. Like, it's a whole pool building, like a community center for the warden. It's so cool, like with the portal, the hot tub, and everything. Pool, excuse me. Now, the final thing I'd like to talk about with the sauna here is the outlines happening here again. What's going on? They're outlines, but like this one, it kind of looks like that soccer warden to me, right? With like the head off center. I mean, it's that, or it's just completely ruined, or it's not even meant to be like an outline or anything like that. But I mean, I don't know. Kind of looks like stalker warden. You tell me. We're in the home stretch of the buildings that make up the city now. Small ruin number 1, not much to say about it. Small ruin number 2, also not much to say about it. Small statue. A little bit to say about it. Look at this thing. It's another head. Kind of looks like that right there. Got the candles right there. No loot in this one, but it's pretty sweet. Love the statue thing. Moving on. Tall ruin number 1. I need you to take a guess. What do you think this thing kind of vaguely looks like? At least to me, the first time I saw it, I was like, pillager outpost. Now, obviously not a recreation of it, but it's just kind of like a similar vibe. We have floor 1, floor 2, finally up top, floor number 3, a chest every single time. So that's the perfect version. The structure files also come with a destroyed version of that structure too. Destroyed version? I think you're gonna have to tower up. Like, there's no clean way to climb up to the top of this thing. So, yikes. Tall ruin number 2. Tall for sure, but nothing like tall ruin number 1. Tall ruin number 2 kind of reminds me of a house or something. We have floor number 1, pillars all over the place, and then a staircase. Up on floor number 2, we have stalls. Is this warden bathroom? I mean, I don't know. You be the judge of it yourself, but this is definitely kind of looks like warden bathroom stall. Anyways, there's a loot chest inside of this one, and then we have a ruined version of the structure as well. In the ruined version, we missed the loot chest on the first floor, and in survival, you're going to have to parkour if you want to get to the loot chest. Go up the stairs, jump over here, loot chest. Inside of ruined warden bathroom. Alright, so for the really, really interesting pieces of the structure, other than the centerpieces, that's like kind of it. The centerpieces are absolutely fascinating though, so please, kindly do not leave this video. So out of the buildings that we just took a look at, which one is your favorite? Do you like the chamber? Do you like the barracks? The sauna? Let me know down below. Those are my 3 favorites. Finally, we have the middle of the ancient city. So every single ancient city will have a centerpiece. And here we have centerpiece 1, centerpiece 2, centerpiece 3. And then around that centerpiece, we're going to have like castle walls. For the front of the castle walls, we have 2 options. We have this one right here with the 4 perfect lamps. Or we have this one right here with 2 perfect lamps and then 2 lamps that have been completely ruined. Inside of the centerpiece, we're also going to have these other castle wall looking things. These castle walls will, of course, combine together and box that center portal thing in. The castle walls right here, I mean, they're interesting looking. Some of them have a little bit of light blue wool and dark oak wood, but for the most part, they're just castle walls. I will say that these walls are really sweet with the staircase top piece, and again, looking at these structures, it makes me want to build like a literal fortress inside of my survival world or something. Like, these things are so cool. Some of them have interesting doorways down below so you can get into them, but no loot here, unfortunately. From looking at all these structures, one change that I would like to propose that is made to the ancient city is maybe a little bit more randomly generated loot throughout the city, like maybe just random loot chests inside the walls sometimes, but not every time. I don't know, like looking at the structures, it seems like kind of once you learn that the loot is only inside of the buildings, you just completely skip the walls because there's no need to walk inside of them. I don't know, I feel like random loot chests inside of some of the walls would definitely encourage the player to like stay in the ancient city, explore a little bit more, and try and find all the loot. But I don't know. Centerpieces. Centerpiece number 3, number 2, and number 1, they're all pretty similar looking, but they do have their differences. So centerpiece number 1 on the outside, and the front has like nothing right there. Centerpiece number 2 is the one with the chest in the middle on the front, and then finally centerpiece number 3 is the one with the walls in the front. Now, every single centerpiece is a little bit of a puzzle. From the back of these structures, we're looking at something that looks pretty much the same. Now, there's an inside to these structures. You probably heard about it by now. The back of the inside of these structures will always be the same, at least right now. First off, we have repeaters right there going over to lamps. Then we have a lectern right there with lamp. Then we have target block over here with lamp. Real quick, let's talk about solutions to these centerpieces as well. So centerpiece number 3 with the walls right here, to open up the door, lower down, move on top of that. That's all you need to do. You could walk across, you could jump or something like that, but you move there and then the doors will open. Now you need to be quick. We're on a timer here. If you run through the walls like that and then run around to the front, you can easily make it to the inside of this thing. And then inside of this thing, in like the lock room, we're looking at lots of repeaters, some torches, and redstone dust. Centerpiece number 2 comes with a chest. The chest, every single time, will have 1 golden apple inside of it. It's the key to the puzzle. If we stand in front of the chest and eat the golden apple, basically a skulk sensor detects that motion and then opens up the doors. We move inside, and then we're inside. The lock one of this room has redstone lamps vaguely in the shape of a U, some redstone components, and a furnace. Centerpiece number 1. Tricky. It's completely blank up top. On first inspection, there's nothing to do here. What do you do to open the door? Well, closer inspection, chiseled deep slate right there. That's the key. We go on top of this block and move around, maybe like jump or something. That works. Then we have the door. The door down below, it opens. That's how you get in. This one is pretty similar to the last one. We have redstone lamps, except not a U this time. Deformed maybe S or C or something. And then more components. If you want to open the doors from the inside, that lever, that does the trick. Centerpiece number 1, centerpiece number 2, centerpiece number 3. Just like with the buildings, out of these 3 centerpieces, which one is your favorite? Do you like the eating one? Do you like one of the motion ones? Let me know down below. And that's it. The ancient city structures. Those are all of the structures that make up this massive, gigantic structure. I don't know what it is about taking a big structure in the game and just breaking it down piece by piece and laying it out, but like, I had a lot of fun with this one. This was really cool to set up, and just looking at them individually, I don't know, it's really interesting. At the time of recording this video, 1.19, it's not fully out quite yet. That means the structure could definitely see some changes made to it before the full release. If you enjoyed today's video, and you haven't yet, smash a like. Subscribe for more wild update stuff. I'd like to send a big thank you to my patrons, GBFan1984, Bill Geek, and Devins. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you all for watching. It's been me, your boy. I'll see you tomorrow, everyone. Goodbye.